Did you know that there are over 45 million people in the United States who were born in another country? That means more than 1 out of every 8 people that you meet here came from somewhere else. 45 million people. That's about the same as the combined populations of the countries of Ecuador and Peru, where we send many mission teams. We spend a great deal of our time and resources reaching the nations, as we should. But isn't it interesting that God brought so many of the nations to us? More than half of the 45 million came from Latin America and speak Spanish. So what are we doing here at home to reach that population? Consider our special guest today, Ben Pereira. Ben is perfectly situated to reach other Spanish speakers like him who came here to the U.S. looking for a better life. He speaks their language and he knows their culture. And he is quite effective at winning souls and making disciples. But Ben doesn't meet the typical missions paradigm. Because when we think of missions, we think of sending people from here to somewhere over there, on the other side of the world. But Ben is a missionary who wasn't sent from the U.S., but came here to the U.S. So what are the advantages of having the nations come to us? Well, for one, it's not hard to reach them. You don't need a passport. You don't need to book an international flight. You just need to drive down to where they are and engage them in conversation. Yes, the culture is different, and many times the language is too. But missionaries learn to overcome these obstacles when they travel to the nations. They study the culture, they study the language, or they bring interpreters with them. When it is on your heart, you will find a way. I remember when I brought my daughter with me to a foreign country for the first time. She was only 15 years old, and she had studied Spanish for only 1 year in high school. There were so many other young women in that country who wanted to talk with her, but they didn't know her language. And she desperately wanted to communicate with them. I watched her use sign language, write things out, and teach each other basic words in each other's languages. She made many friends, and by the end of the week, she was speaking Spanish in complete sentences. See, when there's a heart to find a way to communicate God's will, God will make a way. God desperately wants to put His heart in you to reach the nations, especially the nations which have come to your door. He will give you what you need. On the day of Pentecost, for example, the church was born, and so was the home missions movement. People from all over the world were in Jerusalem that day. God wanted them to hear about Jesus, so He gave the early disciples the ability to communicate in the language of the foreigners who were in town. Those foreigners said, "How is it that we hear, each of us in his own native language, Parthians and Medes and Elamites and residents of Mesopotamia, Judea and Cappadocia, Pontus and Asia, Phrygia and Pamphylia, Egypt and the parts of Libya belonging to Cyrene, and visitors from Rome, both Jews and proselytes, Cretans and Arabians. We hear them telling in our own tongues the mighty works of God." Don't be intimidated, my friends. It is within your reach. God will give you what you need to communicate His good news with the immigrants living among us. Ask Him for His heart for these people who come to our country, and ask Him for the ability to communicate and minister as He desires. He will do it, and His family will become even larger for His glory. God bless you.